Morning everybody. Today is Sunday and technically it's my day off, but we're just dropping by the cafe this morning to get started on next Saturday's meal. And I know that seems a little strange, but a kitchen is a living system, and even though this special that we're going to make is going to come out next Saturday, there's a little something that we have to do each day if we want to do it properly and have it be really nourishing. So we're going to make chili, but we don't just open a can of beans and throw it in a slow cooker and throw some tomato sauce on it. That's not how we make chili. We want it to be as nutrient dense as possible. So what I'm going to do today is set the beans up to neutralize the phytic acid. Phytic acid is in seeds, and when we don't neutralize it, it can actually bind with the minerals when we eat and prevent the minerals from getting ingested into our bodies, and instead we eliminate them. And also, when we don't neutralize the phytic acid by soaking and sprouting the beans, which is what we're going to do, we can set ourselves up for all kinds of embarrassing digestive situations. So we are going to just set these beans up to mimic the conditions of soil germination, and we're going to soak them overnight, and then we're going to sprout them during the week. And so today it's my day off, so I have a really easy job. All I'm going to do is soak these beans. Okay, so to mimic the conditions of soil germination, what we need is a little bit of acid, spilled a little, and some warm water, and of course our beans. And these are organically grown New York State beans that we're using. I'm just adding some acid, which today comes in the form of some yogurt. And then I have warm water. I pour that over the beans and the yogurt. And I just stir it all in. And that's today's work. I'm just going to cover this over with a towel and leave it overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow. And now I'm going to enjoy my Sunday. Good morning. It is a beautiful rainy day outside, and I really want to get home and help my young scholars engage in their homeschooling. So I'm just going to be here for a few seconds. We are here today, and we see that just about all of that water that we soaked the beans in yesterday, the water with the yogurt, has been absorbed. There's a little bit there, and look how cool it is. They're already starting to split open, and I think some of these are even starting to germinate. That's a great thing. This is a sign to me that these are really good beans. These are local, they're out from Ithaca Way, organic beans, and you know they're really fresh because sometimes when you buy beans, they are, they're not gonna sprout like this. But we've soaked them, and now we want to give more of them an opportunity to sprout. So what I'm gonna do now is drain them off. And here's a little tip. The more you wash your beans, the less gastric distress they'll cause. So I'm going to rinse these off. I'm getting that yogurt out. I'm getting that bean water from before out. Getting them just as clean as I can. And that's all I have to do for today. I'm just going to cover it with a cloth, and I'm going to let them start to grow since they're so eager. If you're wondering about the chili recipe that we're using in the cafe, it does come from the Grassfed Gourmet Cookbook, page 70. I always have notes, as you can see, all over my recipes. Okay, I'll see you in a couple days with sprouted beans, and we'll cook chili. Hello, we're back, and today is Wednesday, and I'm so proud of these beans. They are beautifully sprouted. You can see they're turning into little bean plants, and they're even starting to grow out the bottom of the colander. That's a sign of good, healthy, fresh beans, not old, stale ones. And what we're going to do is give them one more rinse as a reminder with the water we pass to eliminate the gas. So I'm going to rinse them off. And once they've been rinsed once more, I'm just going to put them in a pot and cover them with water. and I'm going to start them cooking because the beans take longer to cook than the actual chili does and the ground beef. So we'll start them off cooking while we do our mise en place for the rest of the chili. If you had a big batch like this that you were doing at home, easiest way is to cook them on the stove top. But if you have an Instapot or a pressure cooker, you could speed this process up by cooking it in the pressure cooker for about 12 minutes if you wanted to speed this up. Okay, it's been about half an hour and our beans are ready to add to the chili, and they're tender, but they haven't turned to total mush, and we're going to wash them one more time because remember, through the water we pass to eliminate the gas. All right, we have our mise en place for the chili all ready to go. Some nicely chopped onions and garlic, and we've got our ancho chilies and chipotle chilies, and we have some tomatoes, the ground beef, which is something I want to talk to you about, and then the spices that we're going to use. Again, if you're working with really good ingredients, you don't need to go crazy with exotic spices. All we have here is a little chili powder, cumin, oregano, salt, and pepper. You will notice that the salt is grayish in color. That's because it's a Celtic sea salt. We prefer to give that to our customers. It's a little bit more nutrient dense and it doesn't have the bleach in it. And we're ready to go. I'm going to start by sauteing the onions, and I'm putting them in first because I want the onions to help build the flavor of the dish. If I added them later, you would have more of the crisp onion taste, but if you add them earlier, they're going to break down and incorporate into the sauce. And now we're going to add the garlic. The next ingredient that we're going to add is my favorite part. It's the meat, it's the ground beef, and ground beef is just a miracle because it is from the most flavorful cuts of meat. It comes from the chuck typically, maybe sometimes the round is blended in, but because we blend it and it's not just a cut taken off the animal, we can control the fat level, and a good ground beef should be 80% meat and 20% fat, so that helps bring out really good flavor. The other thing that's special about ground beef is it works like a steak, which is what a hamburger is, essentially a ground meat steak, or it works as a braising dish, which is what we're going to do today because of the connective tissue. So the grinding process breaks down the connective tissue enough to make a steak like a burger, but in this case, it helps the meat stand up and have integrity to a sauce so that you still get a rich, meaty flavor even though it's cooked for a long time. Now that our onions are nice and translucent and the garlic is smelling really good, I'm going to add this ground beef and we're just going to sear that. If you're in a hurry, you actually don't have to sear it ahead of time. The reason why we do this here in the cafe is when we brown it ahead, we have something called the Maillard reaction, which is the chemical reaction between the amino acids and the reducing sugars, and it heightens the overall flavor. But if you want to skip this step and just make your chili by putting your ground beef in your slow cooker without pre-cooking it, it's going to be just fine. Next, we're going to add our spices to the meat and stir it well. Now we're going to add our tomatoes. Okay, we're going to add those beans in. And we're also going to add some dried chilies, some ancho chili peppers, and some dried chipotles. And then we're just going to let that simmer. The real secret to the flavor is we're going to let it sit in the refrigerator for a couple days so that those flavors can really meld. And that's how you make a bowl of very simple and very tasty, nutrient-dense chili.